Hi everyone, welcome to the Talking Booth podcast. This is episode 1, season 1, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and get yourself a nice tasty snack and a nice cold drink, and let's get to it. Today's topics are going to be the reason I started a podcast, why is my podcast called the Talking Booth, and what is my podcast mainly about. And these are all great questions that I came up with. But as always, if you guys have any better questions or any questions you want to ask me personally, go ahead and write that down in the comments, guys. Let's get started with the first question of the day. The reason I started a podcast. The reason I started a podcast was mainly just because I felt the need to do something with myself during quarantine. I got bored, frustrated, just like everybody else. And this is being uploaded not in 2020. Thankfully, we're not in that year anymore. Not saying that year was bad because, there were some bad parts of it. But as always, it's always good to go through that year and be healthy and all that. But there's no covering it. It was a bad year, and I guess in a certain way, it helped a lot of us. It helped us value what we just had and didn't really value it that much. And personally, that was a big part of my life at that certain point in time, especially March, and sadly even probably last year November, it was still affecting me. I felt very frustrated, to a certain point depressed, and it was just tough. So I wanted to make more money, and there's a certain little thing, it's kind of tough. This is called monetization. And I was in a certain point, I'd say I was like, you know what? Like a certain point in my life, I was like, yes, this is the thing. A podcast. Podcast is perfect. Like talking, I think I'm okay at talking. But the best part is I get to voice my opinion. And hopefully, it's heard, which is perfect, It's everything I'd ever want in a YouTube channel, because I would say I'm comfortable in front of the camera, but I'm not that comfortable to make a vlog. And I don't think my life is that, impressive, Not even vloggers' lives are so glamorous as they seem, Most of the part is scripted, or they either have to really change their lifestyle a lot to make it more interesting. But my point is, it felt right. It just felt right, when you're in a certain situation and it's a clear answer. There's no yes or no. It's just clear. And that was what I felt at that time. So, first thing I did, right ahead, looked at microphones. I had no idea how to start a podcast. I'd heard a lot of the, more famous, you could call it more popular podcasts that there are out there, especially on YouTube. I don't really listen that much on Spotify or nothing like Apple Music, none of that. I just plain YouTube podcasting, and I enjoyed it a lot, just listening to it. And at a certain point, I felt more comfortable, I more comfortable in the point where I was like, you know what, I can do this. I can start a podcast. It doesn't look that hard. But once you start getting into all of it and you start watching videos on how to do it, and then you start getting into the microphones, it's tough. There's no other way to put it than tough. I'd probably say this is one of the hardest things I've done. Not the hardest, but one of the. It's pretty tough, trying to get everything perfect in line, trying to get it how you want it. And like I said, I had no idea how to podcast at all. No, editing. I don't know why I went for it or why I thought I could do it, but I know I can. The thing is, I don't know why I think I can. Does that make sense? I've no editing experience. I'm good at talking, but what's the word? Not even shy. It's more of a because I'm not shy. It's more of a almost self-conscious thing. Do you know what I mean? To a certain degree, it's self-confidence when you're doing a podcast or any type of entertainment. But the thing is, I knew I could do it, but I don't understand why. Does that make sense? Because I don't think of myself as that big of a deal at all. Not even in, just modern modern day, it's tough to look at it from the perspective I had a few months ago. Once I actually started trying to record, my voice, trying to record my ideas, trying to record my opinions, it was horrible. Just tough, horrible. I say tough. I like saying tough when I'm trying to express this feeling I had of trying to create the first episode, because it was horrible. It's just bad. I just, I don't know what I was thinking when I was trying to think of ideas on how to make money on YouTube. And I don't know, I think I picked right, because vlogging, I don't do that much besides just, life, regular life, regular, I'd like to call it civilian life. If you guys know what I mean, like civilians, we're just plain old, modern, simple, not very interesting lives. Um, it just I would say I have a very normal life, but sadly in these times normal isn't a big thing anymore. So it just, podcast was so like a shining star, if that makes sense. Imagine a night sky, okay? I'm gonna describe it for you guys. It's dark, it's shadowy, and the moon's bright though. But then this bright, super bright star just shines on you. And it's a podcast. That's what it felt like, okay? It felt like I had found the perfect thing for me. Does that make sense? Hope it does, because I'm not too sure. But in my head, it makes sense. So it means it's probably making sense to you guys, right? Yeah, but that was pretty much it. It felt right. And when something feels right to me, I don't hold back at all. I go for it. Hopefully I don't fall, theoretically. Not like literally. Hopefully I don't fall on my face. But, it doesn't hurt to try. And that was just the main reason. I was like, you know what? There's no pain in trying. What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work out. That's literally the worst that could happen. I mean, I did waste a lot of money on extra stuff that I didn't really need, because I thought I just went all out with it. But, maybe it'll come in handy someday. Hopefully this thing, it's something I do a lot. But to this point right now, this will be probably the first episode that airs out. Well, guys, that was the first question of the day. This is the second one out of 3 questions. Why is my podcast called The Talking Booth? Well, just like everything else, guys, I was actually going to name this The Thinker's Booth or The Talking Bar, something like that. It was especially going to have thinker in it. Why, right? And it wasn't something that was very unusual for me, because I always see myself in this light, but it was something, it felt weird. It felt weird to put myself somewhere else than normal. Do you guys know what I mean? Because I'm a rule guy. Like, I like following the rules, if that makes sense. I don't like breaking rules. I like following them. It keeps you out of trouble. It keeps you calm, less stress. But thinking gets you in trouble. I hope that makes sense, because it should. And if it doesn't, here's why. Thinking puts you in the biggest situations of your life, okay? And curiosity is equally as dangerous as thinking. The bad part is that they're both connected to each other. When you're thinking, that's plain old fashioned old curiosity. That's what thinking is. It's just curiosity, which is created. Its birth is given by boredom, and curiosity will take over immediately. Now think about this. Curiosity is the same thing as thinking, because if you're thinking, guys, okay, if you're thinking, how to explain it? It's kind of tough to explain. But it goes either way around. I'll just put it in simpler terms than trying to elaborate on it. Thinking is curiosity, because you're not focused on just one thing. You're just all over the place thinking. Thinking is just an open mind moment, if that makes sense. And then once you're open-minded, all these ideas come in, and that's when the curiosity comes in. Hope that made sense, but that's why it was called The Thinker. Because I'm always thinking, and I'm always curious about things. Same reason I started this podcast, because I'm always curious. I'm always thinking on things when I shouldn't be. I'll be doing something that I'm supposed to be doing, but my mind will not be there. I'll be doing it correctly. My mind is just not there. Same thing with this podcast. My mind is just all over the place. It's not here, it's not there, it's all over the place. But I think that's what makes it interesting sometimes. But guys, that's mainly that was going to be the name, The Thinker, like I said. But of course, as you can see, it's not The Thinker or The Thinking Booth or The Thinking Bar. It's The Talking Booth. And here's why. Whenever I would voice my opinion, okay, my family, my parents, specifically my parents, and sadly a large part of my family, they'd hate it. They don't like it. They'd rather me shut up and not talk. And sorry for using explicit language, guys, but I have to. It's always been a big issue with myself with trying to figure things out, and just thinking, because I'd voice my opinion, nobody'd care. But I understand, because neither would I when somebody did. And that's the thing about life, You're always thinking and talking, but you're never thinking about the talking, if that makes sense. And if you are, you're not thinking about anything else. And that's my point. So instead of calling the thinking booth and being all plain and all over the place, I try to focus it more. Kind of like a barrel. A barrel focuses the energy of the bullet to pierce through everything. Well, talking focuses all of my energy in piercing all of your guys' ears with my voice. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because it made sense to me. And like I said, if it makes sense to me, it makes sense to you guys. Well, that was the big part. I called it The Talking Booth because I'm just talking. It focuses. And think about this. A booth. Okay. When I had this image in my head, like I said, I'm a big thinking guy. I had this image in my head of a booth. But it was a phone booth. People talk in the booth, right? In the phone booth. Back in the old days, I don't know, 60s, 90s. I have no idea. Maybe they're still around. Not where I live, though. But phone booths, guys. People talk in phone booths. So, of course, they're talking. And then just in my head, it's just like, I don't know if you guys have ever tried figuring out a name for something, a logo, a company, whatever it is. But I just thought like talking booth. That what was in my head. Literally those exact words. They just popped out, and I don't know I'm pretty sure they don't rhyme, not at all, but they kind of click. Talking booth. And then podcast, well, what's podcasting about? Talking. So that was just perfect, okay? And I was going to change the name. I didn't want that because it sounded too long and too plain. But like I said, just overthinking it probably. But it's called Talking Booth because it's a podcast and I'm talking. And just like a talking booth or a phone booth, you're talking in there. Well, guys, that was the answer for the second question. We're about to get into the third question, which is, why is my podcast like this, and what is it about? Well, that question may be a little bit confusing for you guys, but the main reason I said why is my podcast like this is I'm trying to what's the word? I'm trying to diversify myself. I don't know if I'm using the correct term. I'm pretty sure I'm not, but what do I mean by that? Here's the difference, okay? A lot of podcasts, I would say there's 3 to 4 types. I'm not trying to get all of them. I'm trying to get the main ones, the most popular ones, okay? For example, Joe Rogan Experience, right? Impulsive, about David Dobrik's, right? These are all great podcasts, but they're all different, okay? Joe Rogan's and Impulsive, they're kind of a mix. especially Joe Rogan's. His is more of an interview type podcast, and then Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. It's more of a interview, and then sometimes it can be just a partner talk. What I mean by that, it's just either partners talking. Does that make sense? Or it's not always partners. It could be more than two people, but most of the time it's just him and Mike. And these are all great podcasts, guys. I recommend you guys go listen to them. They're a big inspiration for me. But like I said, these are those types of podcasts. Now, David Dobrik's, that's a permanent. Okay, it's all over the place. Why do I call it permanent? Because it's always gonna be there. But I feel like the topics are always the same, so it's always just solidified there. That's why I use that word. Now, there's solo podcasting as well, and then but all these podcasts, a lot of people follow them because they have a certain type of energy, a certain topic. That's why I said why is my podcast like this? Because it's just the first episode, guys. You guys can't really tell, but my podcast is not going to be on one thing. It's not going to be one topic. It's not going to be just stuck, because that's what I feel like all these podcasts are at. They're just stuck. I know they're supposed to be like that, but personally, I think it's just the way I think. They feel stuck, guys. Like, okay, right now, I'm pretty, I'm in a good position to the mic, but when I back up from the mic, this is how I feel, okay? I feel like they're far away and they need to close up. Because, for example, they'll have an interview, but then the next podcast, it'll be the same interview, just different answers from different people, okay? And I completely understand that. I sound very dumb because that's what an interview is. But personally, when I like listening to something, it's like, when you guys are doing something, if it's homework, work, or just like at work, you're just doing something that's just mindless. Work, by that I mean like it's something you can just do repetitively. You're not really putting your head into it. It's nothing that makes you force your brain into learning. Well, you know how you can sometimes just put a YouTube video in the background or music or something like that? Well, I'll do that with these podcasts, but they're always the same. So it kind of bores me out. I don't know if it's just me or if it's everybody else, but let me know, guys, in the comments what you guys think. So when I did make this podcast, I was like, there's going to be one difference, though. I'm not always going to stick to the same thing. I am always going to change it. Always going to change my topic. Always, The one thing that isn't going to change is the intro, because who doesn't like a nice cold drink and a nice tasty snack? Who doesn't like that, okay? It doesn't matter if you're sitting down, just petting your dog or watching a movie or with your girl. You always want a tasty snack and a nice cold drink. Who doesn't like that, It's a great way to start anything. So that's probably the only thing that's going to stay for every episode. But besides that, hopefully we always have different variations of topics, answers, because some answers are yes or no answers. Some questions are extended, almost paragraph-sized answers. That's the difference by what I mean. Do you guys understand? If not, leave it in the comments, and I'll explain a little bit more next episode. But, guys, that'll be about it. This was a pretty short episode. It is just an intro episode. Most episodes will be almost 25 to 30 minutes long, or 20 to 25 minutes long, or 25 to 30 minutes long. It kind of just depends on the topic and on the information I'm able to get from that topic. But guys, thank you very much for watching and tuning in. If you made it to this part of the podcast, hopefully you consider subscribing and liking my video. And you know what, guys? Just have a good day. That's all I ask that you guys do for me. Just have a good day, because every smile can make somebody's days better just by looking at that smile, guys. All right, guys. Bye.